are the days when my heart was young and gay. Gone are my friends from the cotton fields away.
This month, August, in the year of our Lord 2019, marks exactly 400 years of African history in the U.S. And I would like to seize this opportunity to begin a new series of insights with Dr. Val-Addo by connecting the commemoration with Africa, Europe, the Caribbean, and South America. Hello, my name is Dr. J. Val-Addo, a theologian public dealing with insightful matters and issues affecting Africa, Africans, and African descents around the globe. The focus of our presentation today is a reflection of what happened to 20 Africans 400 years ago. And we shall be discussing the significance and story of the commemoration and do sincere appraisal from the secular and sacred theology perspectives of that history. Now let's begin with the significance. A bill on 400 years of African American history was introduced in the United States House of Representatives in 2017. It passed and was signed into law by the President of the United States in 2018. A commission was established to coordinate and oversee the commemoration, and it began the celebrations in June 2019. The commemoration is so significant in history that Ghana celebrated it as a Pan-African festival, Panafest, from July 25th to August 3rd, 2019, as a year of return to Ghana and Africa by African Americans, Caribbean Africans, and other Africans in diaspora. It is like a reunion of a long separated family members, a unity party of Africans scattered around the globe. It is so significant that the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, led a congressional delegation of 12 members of the Congressional Black Caucus to participate in the festival in Ghana. They also visited historical slave castles and addressed Ghana's parliament. Now, let us tell the story behind the commemoration from documented history of the United States. In 1619, a Spanish slave ship was carrying 20 Africans on its way to the Caribbean islands and South America to stay in Spanish colonies where slavery was already established. A fierce battle ensued between an English ship with a Spanish ship when they came to the central part of America and in a place called the Bay of Campeche. And this is the Bay of Campeche. This is called Campeche, and this is the Bay of Campeche. If you look at the Gulf of Mexico, the English ship prevailed over the Spanish ship and took over the 20 Africans. The 20 enslaved Africans were treated as human cargo in the English ship, and they were to go back to Europe, where they sailed from. And they had to go close to the North American continent. And so when they reached a place, they were in desperate need of rations. So it landed at Point Comfort. And this is where Point Comfort is in Virginia. So they stopped there. And it is believed that at this point, the English people in the ship sold them to the North Americans, to the English settlers in North America for provisions like food and water and other things. So they ended up there. There, the English navigators traded the 20 enslaved Africans to the first English settlers in North America for provisions. It is now believed that that took place on August 25th, 1619. The first English people had settled in North America from 1607, and the 20 African slaves became indentured workers for the first permanent English settlers in North America. The early English settlers in Virginia were tobacco farmers. Now let's do the sincere appraisal of the history of the 400 years commemoration at this point. The question is, where did Spain or the Spanish people get the 20 African slaves to send them to the Caribbean islands and South America to work for them as slaves? Now, Spain had only 3 colonies in Africa, and the first one are the islands of Val-Addo, Sao Tome and Principe, and Equatorial Guinea, which is very close to Cameroon. Now, the Portuguese actually had these islands, and they gave it to Spain in 1778. So these 20 enslaved Africans could not have come from that portion of Africa, because they gave that to Spain in 1778, and Spain only stayed in this island for only 2 years and left in 1780. The other colony of Spain was Western Sahara, and this is Western Sahara. This is Western Sahara, close to Morocco and Mauritania. Now, Western Sahara was colonized by Spain in 1884, and so the slaves couldn't have come from Western Sahara. Then also the northern part of Morocco, which is very close to Spain, was also colonized in 1912. So in actual fact, Spain couldn't have gotten these slaves from its colonies, because the 8 colonies were inhabited, or they were colonized by them after 1619. But these slaves were going to the Caribbeans and the South America in 1619. So it is possible that Portugal could have sold these slaves to Spain. The reason being that Portugal was a neighbor of Spain. You know, it shares boundary. This is Portugal and this is Spain. They share boundaries. And the other interesting thing is there was the Spanish Empire, and Portugal was colonized and brought under the Spanish Empire in the 1400s. And so Portugal itself was colonized by Spain. And so Spain could have gotten the slaves from Portugal. And if you look at the colonies of Portugal in Africa, it is possible to for Portugal to get the slaves and sell them to Spain, because in actual fact, Val-Addo here close to Cameroon was colonized in 1472. Sao Tome here and Principe was also colonized in the 1400s. Equatorial Guinea, which is here, was also colonized in 1474. And Cape Verde Islands, and Cape Verde Islands are very close to Senegal on the western part of Africa, and they were also colonized in 1400s. Now, Mozambique, and this is where Mozambique is. Mozambique was also colonized by Portugal in 1505. Portugal also colonized Angola here in Africa in the 1500s, and then colonized Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is very close to Guinea and Gambia. It's a very small country, or to Senegal, and Guinea is a very small country. They colonized that small country in the 1500s. Now, the slaves could also have come from Gold Coast, because the Portuguese came to the Gold Coast as early as the 1400s. They built a fort or castles in Elmina in 1482, in Axim in 1515, and in Shaman in the 1520s. So looking at the 1619 date, Spain couldn't have colonized any place where they got the slave by themselves. They were likely to get the slaves from Portugal for the reasons that we have given. Now, we would like to trace the journey of the 20 African slaves. Supposing they were taken from the Gold Coast, which is here, the Gold Coast was here, and they captured some people and as slaves, and so they will sail in the Atlantic Ocean all this way back to Portugal, and where they kept some of the slaves and possibly sold some of them to Spain. And Spain took 20 of the African slaves, possibly from the Gold Coast, to go to the Caribbean islands and also South Africa, where there were slaves, and they had empire. They had their empire stretched up to the Southern America and the Caribbean Sea. So they undertook that journey all the way from Spain and moved on the Atlantic Ocean in a ship. And when they came here and came to Central America and in the Gulf of Mexico, there is a bay here called the Bay of Campeche. There was an English ship, and they actually entered into a fierce battle with them over the slaves. And so the English ship prevailed, and they captured them and gave them to the English people. And they wanted to sail back to Europe. And remember, the English people are from England, so they wanted to sail back to England, which is part of Europe. But along the way, they were in desperate need of rations, in desperate need of food and water and other necessities. And the journey was so long, so they alighted at they alighted in Virginia, which is part of America. They alighted them, and the early English settlers actually received them, and the English navigators also sold these 20 Africans into slavery. Now, because the early settlers were farmers, they needed human resources for labor-intensive tobacco in order for them to survive. Now, if the 20 enslaved Africans were from the Gold Coast, solely from the Gold Coast, as we have indicated, then they came from the coastal towns of Elmina, Axim, and Shaman. And so they were primary fishers and not farmers. And so by taking them as slaves to work in the tobacco farms was a forced labor against their skills and against their will. Now, the first English settlers used the 20 enslaved Africans to advance their economic vision. But there is no indication that the first English settlers of North America were associated with Christianity and a church denomination. They were identified by their secular motive only, that is, to do farming and prosper economically. So based on that, the establishment of North America, originally by the English in Virginia and other places, had no Christian foundation, but a real secular move to better their lives economically. Now, we would like to look at the secular, sacred theology perspective of the sincere appraisal from history that we are trying to do. The Holy Writ in Revelation chapter 18 talks about nations of the earth and their merchants having become rich by the wealth of Babylon's sensuality in verse 3. Among the list of items they traded in were gold and ivory. In verse 11 and 12, we can see that. They also traded in slaves and human lives or souls of men. Verse 13. Whether they knew it or not, Europeans who came to the western part of Africa and named portions like Gold Coast, Ivory Coast, Slave Coast, and Grain Coast were fulfilling these verses of divine revelation. By trading in slaves and human lives, they were involved in tormenting human souls to lose their stamina and be restless in life, as if life had no meaning and they were grievous sins. In their bondage, Christ, the Savior of the suffering humanity, seemed to whisper to the slaves, in your patience, possess your souls. Luke 21:19. He seemed to whisper to them, this is a wicked, tossed to and fro, frustrating acts meted against you, or meted to you by the Europeans. They are depressing acts to suppress and possess your soul, your mind, will, and emotions. But I'm encouraging you to possess your souls back, to possess your mind, to possess your will, and to possess your emotions back, to hold on to them. Christ seemed to tell the enslaved Africans that they do not have to go mad. They don't have to give up their will. They don't have to break them emotionally. Possess your souls, he told them. I will deliver you from such wicked Europeans, trading in slaves and in human souls. Christ was there with them, and he was not silent. He spoke to them silently. He was really concerned with their situation. And while they went through all these difficulties, they sang Negro spirituals. They might have sang from our land in Africa. We were kings and princes, but we were put in chains as slaves on a journey to an unknown land, separated from families and loved ones. We sailed in a Portuguese ship from Africa. We arrived in their country in a cold weather, different from the warm African climate. We were sold or given over to the Spanish. They also put us in another ship and sailed across the Atlantic, coming close to North America, going to the Caribbean islands and South America. At the Bay of Campeche in South America or Central America, a fierce battle ensued between another group of Europeans called the English. Our mouths dropped in our hearts as if we were going to lose our lives there. The English prevailed and were put in their ship back to England. Oh, what a frustrating life. We were hungry and thirsty, almost giving up to die. But they brought us to their people in Virginia and sold us to them to do their farms. Oh, what a world and life of frustration and pain. Through the Atlantic Ocean in ships, we sat and wept when we remembered Africa, our great Africa, where we were princes. We felt homesick almost always as we remembered our siblings, friends, and grannies, and the stories they told us by the fireside. Redemption came to us in the fullness of time, and we love to sing new songs, songs that touched our spirits and souls, the Negro spirituals in the tobacco and cotton fields. And we would like to play for you Old Black Joe, written by Stephen C. Foster in 1860. My teacher taught my class this Negro spiritual in 1970, 49 years ago.
Gone are the days when my heart was young and gay. Gone are my friends from the cotton fields away. Gone from the earth to a better land I know. I hear their gentle voices calling Old Black Joe. I'm coming, for my head is bending low. I hear those gentle voices calling Old Black Joe. Why do I weep when my heart should feel no pain? Why do I sigh that my friends come not again? Grieving for forms now departed long ago, I hear the gentle voices calling Old Black Joe. I'm coming, for my head is bending low. I hear those gentle voices calling Old Black Joe. Where are the hearts once so happy and so free? The children so dear that I held upon my knee. Gone to the shore where my soul has longed to go. I hear their gentle voices calling old Black Joe. I'm coming, for my head is bending low. I hear those gentle voices calling old Black Joe.
It's been 400 years now that the progeny of the 20 enslaved Africans are called upon to commemorate that 1619 events. But don't be deceived. The commemoration is dual. It is also for white North Americans to commemorate the 400 years of their representative democracy. Think of it. Slavery and democracy running parallel from the same year. What a historical contradiction and commemorations. If you receive this presentation on your WhatsApp, please do us a favor. Go to the YouTube and type in Insights with Dr. Val-Addo. You will find all our presentations, including this one. And while you are there, please press the subscribe button to receive Insights with Dr. Val-Addo and the notification bell to receive an alert when a new presentation is released. Give us a thumb up sign if this presentation has been a blessing to you. Click the share symbol to send to friends, relatives, and others. To all Africans, African Americans, and Caribbean Africans, and all Africans in diaspora, please scroll down and you will find a comment section. Leave us a comment and we will love to read it. God bless you as we all celebrate the commemoration of the history of the Africans that were sent to North America through the Spanish and the English. God bless.
Gone are the days when my heart was young and gay. Gone are my friends from the cotton fields away. Gone from the earth.